The next session is on financial health for a diverse workforce, for which I'd like to invite Shanti Ekambaram, President, Consumer Banking, Kotak Mahindra Bank. In 2016, Fortune had ranked her amongst the most powerful women in India. Let's learn tips to improve the financial well-being of our employees. Please welcome Shanti Ekambaram, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm standing between you and lunch. So I try to sort of be brief because I presume that after a whole morning of listening to so much gyan, you'd be hungry. So first of all, thank you very much to SHRM and all of you for the opportunity to speak here. Two things that is there in the headline that she talked about: financial health and diversity. And diversity, financial health. You know, it's interesting, in this age of digital automation, so much talk about robots, machines, etc. Human capital still remains the most critical and complex factors or criteria for success in any business, whether it's in industry, manufacturing, financial services, etc. But despite, and all of you are very experienced HR managers who spend time understanding people, but the human brain and emotion really is far superior and so complex, and there is never a dull day in the life of an HR manager because there is always something new that comes up. So when we look at the very basic, if human capital is so critical, what are the few things that are important? So I have a famous equation that I talk to my team. Happy employees. Happy employees mean happy customers, means happy business, which means business volumes are good, which means more profitability, happy value creation, right? So the very start of a successful, profitable, value-creating business is happy employees. So what does it take to make employees happy? And I broadly divide them into three broad streams: physical well-being, mental well-being, and financial well-being. So you can say physical, mental, financial health or well-being. Most companies over the last 2 decades have evolved as far as the physical well-being of employees are concerned. Whether it is making sure that the offices, the environment, the ambience, food, facilities for fitness, medical, meditation, music, etc. You just have to go to some of our large campuses to say what a difference it was 30, 40 years ago. So I think the physical well-being has reasonably evolved. The mental well-being is reasonably recent. And I think it is going to be one of the most important streams going forward, because if an employee is stressed, for whatever reasons, it may be personal, professional, financial, whatever, mental health has a very strong linkage to physical health and thus to productivity. A lot of work needs to be done. I'm going to talk about the financial health. Financial well-being is in fact one of the most critical aspects of an employee. Because if there is no financial well-being, there is a lot more mental stress. If there is a lot more mental stress, there is a lot more physical stress. If there is a lot more physical stress, there's absenteeism and loss of productivity. So while it may be the third point, the linkage to financial health is extremely important. And I'm going to quote you something from studies that PwC, even SHRM and others have done to say half of the employees who are worried about financial health miss work and are less productive. They estimate in the US it's about 3 million of productivity loss for each company for every 10,000 batch of workers because of this. 40% of employees who were surveyed said that finances distracted them at work, and 15% said it makes them miss work. And 40% of employees said they missed at least one day in the previous 12 months because of a financial emergency. So there is not too much that organizations spend time on financial well-being. For most HR managers, financial well-being, I've tied up with the bank for their salary accounts, and I've tied up with some institutions for cheap loans for them. That is not what financial well-being is. Financial well-being is about any person entering the workforce planning for their next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of life. And most people who come into the force forget that this is very critical. You know, I'm in the financial services business. This morning I met some team members and I did a thing, say, how many of you do financial planning? There were blank looks on their face. So including inside companies who specialize in financial services, there's a lack of focus on financial well-being. Very simple example. If an employee at the age of 25 years saves 1,000 rupees a month, 1,000 rupees, today's rate of interest, let's say a simple bank deposit, forget anything else, is 7.5%. In 20 years, it's 5.5 lakhs. In 30 years, it's 13.5 lakhs. And if for 40 years, if they just save 1,000 rupees a month, it will be a whopping 30 lakhs. Small amount. But people don't realize the power of compounding. We live in a consumption age. I mean, all of you may have heard that Amazon has its great $1 billion sale. What went out of the shelves in 1 hour? iPhone 10, high end of Samsung mobiles. Who are the guys who buys it? The 25-year-old. How do they buy it? Oh, they give me an EMI loan. What do? They take credit cards. So today's age of consumption, people are consuming more than what they are earning, or savings is something that doesn't enter their head till they reach the age of 45 and 50 and say, oh, you know what? These days people are living till 80 years, 85 years. How will I survive? And there is a finite time up to which people can work. You may well ask, why am I saying this? I mean, how does it matter to us? We are HR managers, you know. We've got to look at compensation, we've got to look at training, we've got to look at, you know, the daily woes that come up, etc., etc., etc. But when an employee gets into stress on the financial side, it has a direct bearing on productivity. We are in the lending business, and I know how many youngsters we are going after for credit card recovery, for personal loan recovery. So, highlighting the importance of financial planning and financial health and ensuring that, I think it's a very important peg for HR managers. You don't have to be experts at that. There are enough and more outsourcing agencies, banks, institutions that are available. But important is to highlight to them, think for the next 50 years. Remember, there is a lifespan increase that's happening to people. Save something as small as 1,000 rupees a month. Decide your life goals. I want to live in this kind of a house. I want to educate my children in this kind of a university. I want to get my kids married at this kind of a age. Plan, and according to that save. If your needs are simple, save 1,000 rupees. If your needs are more complex, start saving 10,000 rupees. But when people map out their financial goals for the next 40 years, right, and including what they need, assuming they live till 80, then there are many products that are available that can help tailor their needs. But then you have a force that is stress-free. Mind you, I'm telling you, financial stress is the highest level of stress it causes, which affects the mental well-being. And I've seen people being destroyed because of that, but there is no choice. So one of the things that I'd really stressed, I think it's very important for HR managers to make sure that in addition to whatever they do for employees, whether it's their salary, if they can invest and help their employees save, borrow, plan, invest, you will find that it makes a big difference to their well-being, and financial well-being leads to mental well-being, leads to physical well-being. So I'm just leaving that over there, since I have limited time and you have lunch to go. The second topic which is a topic, so financial is what I do and it's close to my heart. The second thing that's very close to my heart is diversity and financial health relating to diversity. All of you as HR managers must be facing the challenge of how do I ensure 30% of my force has women and other diversity. Diversity is not just women, but I'm saying largely it is related to women. And the problems of funnel to the C-suite is very high. The funnel is large, but by the time you reach the board or the C-suite, you are struggling to find one member or two members. And it's a complex process of entry, nurturing, training, and women go through marriage, motherhood, second innings, third innings, and then the C-suite. I think we can do a lot. There is a lot of talk, but the walk is still limited. I'd say that in the last decade, perhaps organizations are beginning to realize the power of diversity, whether it's loyalty, whether it's integrity, whether it's hard work, whether it's bringing emotional quotient, bringing a different perspective to work and adding to the profitability. And there are enough statistics to say higher the diversity, high profitability, high market cap, etc. You can just look at any McKinsey quoted figures and you'll find that. But having a diverse workforce is very important for an organization, but its attendant problems are something that people need to tackle. Suffice to say, skill, empathy, training, providing second innings opportunity are extremely critical. I want to touch upon the financial health of a diverse workforce. One, I'm saying diverse workforce is important. It has its own challenges. How do you ensure each organization has to tackle differently depending on the field? If it's a factory, it's a different proposition. If it's an office in Bandra Kurla complex in Mumbai, it's a different proposition. If it's a blue-collar worker, it's a different proposition. But each one needs support. An organization have to extend themselves right from things like, flexi hours, flexi time, flexi job, training, second inning skilling, etc., etc. Now, one of the things that, again, interestingly, this is what I see around me as well as statistics. When it comes to women, they earn, but they don't want to do anything with it in terms of finances. Including, it's ironical that financial services has one of the largest amount of women. But when it comes to finances, women say, father, brother, husband, son, don't bore me yet. And whenever you have actually ensured that women understand the importance of financial independence is not just about earning, but knowing what to do with it and building your wealth, the transformation has been tremendous. And these are proven facts. I am not saying anything myself. But it's very important also that if you have a large workforce, which are women, it's important to make sure financial literacy and ability to handle your own money, whether it is as complex as equity markets or is it as simple as a bank deposit, or knowing what to do with your money is extremely important. And most women prefer not to do it, to say, I'm taking care of so many other things, please take care of the money. And when problem hits, and that causes stress of its own. So the second thing is, in addition to diversity, when I talked about financial health and financial literacy, one of the things, and it's a crusade that I myself am carrying out, is that we must ensure that our diverse workforce also understand the importance of financial literacy and ensure that they are able to handle money. When you come down to it, it is not complex. There is something called a mental block, and all that it requires is just going behind the mental block to be able to get people to do what you need to do. So I talked about financial well-being, which has a direct impact on productivity, cost, output. I talked about diversity, how it can again bring about a difference in your productivity, output, profitability, and financial literacy for a diverse system. I just want to touch upon one last thing, and it's a question that keeps coming out. One of the things that employees are anxious about, since we're talking about mental, is, will I have a job in 10 years' time? Will machines take over my job? This man versus machine debate has become significant these days to say, will machines take over my job? Will they only be robots? What will we do as human beings? It's like someone asking me in banks, will branches ever remain, or the bank will only be in a mobile phone? And I have to keep telling people that even today, in a city like Mumbai, people open account because they can see the branch from their eye. They never go into it. They use their mobile. But that psychological comfort of having a branch, and to my mind, I just want to touch upon the fact that human beings cannot be eradicated from the workforce. Machines can be there to create repetitive jobs, but machines don't think on their own. Machines have to learn, and who teaches them? The human being. Machines can't be entrepreneurial. How does an entrepreneur use machines? You have to learn. So I think this whole concept of man versus machine in a digital revolution is a debate that will continue, but I am very clear, human capital will continue to be at the forefront of importance in any organization. The difference is the human capital will have to learn to use technology and leverage technology to really try and increase productivity. And that is where I think the from an HR perspective, there is again a mental block. Employees, the other side of 40, still prefer to have their emails printed by their secretary and respond. It's changing. But I know people at the CEO office who still do that. Give me a printout, I will respond. Younger crowd don't want any paper, they only want mobile. How do you ensure that the two, there's a gap that is bridged, and that we work towards making sure that we create a digital and a technological savvy workforce, because while human capital will continue to remain, technology will be the key lever on the basis of which productivity, profits, output, etc. will gain. And that is the third very important trend. So 3 things which I talked about: financial well-being, which leads to mental well-being, which leads to physical well-being, better productivity, more profitability, higher value creation. Diverse workforce adds a lot of value and productivity. Financial health of the diverse workforce, and ensuring that our human capital and our managers and our workers understand technology and can adapt to technology to really create an output is what is going to make a difference between companies, provide a competitive advantage and value, and keep a happy workforce. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to answer questions, but that's it.